want to read to you the college's vision statement and mission statement. Vision statement to be a world-class center of excellence in education and training. Mission statement to meet the changing developmental, educational, and training needs of stakeholders through the provision of relevant high-quality programs. So today, my name is Faith Callender. I am one of the counselors at the Counseling and Placement Center. Today, I'm going to be presenting to you study strategies and memory. So I want to encourage you guys who are here to not only listen and pay attention, but we want to encourage you to participate. We're going to be having some polls. We're going to be having some items that we're going to ask you to participate. So I encourage you to do so. So our first thing, we're going to get rolling right off the bat. I'm going to ask Ms. Cullimore if she would assist me with this part of the webinar. She's going to present a poll for you. And it's going to ask you, do you think you performed well in your studies last semester? Do you think you performed well in your studies last semester? So I'm going to ask you to, as the poll comes up on your screen, we're going to indicate yes or no so that we can have a sense of where persons are at today. Ms. Cullimore, are we getting participation today?
Yes, we are, Ms. Callender.
Okay. So don't hesitate. All right, I'm seeing some of you respond. So far, I've only seen 11 of you, 12, and I know there are about 40 or so persons in today. So we encourage you, just click yes or no. When you think about it, do you think you perform well? Have you done as good as you think you can? Can you maybe do better? All right, so far I'm seeing that 50% of persons are saying yes, but it's changing now. But around, we have about 42% of persons are saying yes, they think that they perform well. We have 12% saying no, and then we have 48% saying maybe. Now, what we want to tell you is those who said yes, well, congratulations. And we are hoping that when you see your GPA slip or when your grades are returned, this would be reinforced. Those of you who said no, well, this is not the end of the world, and you have an opportunity this semester to improve on your performance from last semester and do better in your grades. Those of you that said maybe, well, we're hoping that the maybes change to a yes rather than a no. But like we said, if it is a no, then you can work on improving for next semester. So thank you for your participation so far. I'm going to crave your indulgence again. I have another poll for you. So Ms. Cullimore is going to put it up on the screen. And the poll is asking you, did you connect with any of the following resources? Did you connect with any of the following resources? So it's yes or no. So these resources include the Counseling Center, the Lime Center, the library, with your tutors. And when we say your tutors, we don't mean if you sat in class, but did you maybe go to them and ask them to explain something after? Any of the websites you see listed there, YouTube, any of those things. So yes or no, did you connect with any of these resources? Don't be shy. It's either yes or no, yes or no. So as you see it come up on your screen, just respond. Okay, we have just over half of you would have responded so far. Don't be shy, the others. Now, some of you might not be able to respond because of certain settings or device you're using. But thank you so far. So we have 88% are saying yes, they have connected with these resources. And we have 11% saying no, they have not connected. Now, as you would or should have realized by now if you haven't, college is what you make it, and you get out of college what you put into it. And the college life or the college experience is different to secondary school or even primary school life. You are responsible for your own learning. So you're going to have to reach out. There are resources and lots of resources, as you can see, some of them at the colleges, at college, sorry, and some of them online. But if you do not seek out these resources, if you do not actively try to engage these resources to assist you, then you're not going to be making the college experience as a good experience as it could be. All right. So what you can do, if you haven't, you can make a note. You can probably take a photo of this slide. I'll give you a couple more seconds with it before we move on so that you can access some of these resources later on to assist you. And these are really good resources. We always recommend our students, especially like Khan Academy. There are a variety of subjects that is covered on Khan Academy, and it's free. So don't forget to utilize it. And the Lime Center is free as well. So we encourage you to access them. All right, so I'm going to move on. So learning is not a spectator sport. Now, if you see what's on the screen, there's a football match going on, and I can't remember how many players usually play football, but when you compare the players on the field with the spectators, of course, the spectators outnumber the players. But if you think about it in terms of learning, if you sit on the sidelines and do not engage, just in your learning, similar to what I was talking about just now, being involved in your learning, then you're not going to get as much as you can out of that experience. Things are not just going to happen, by the way, miraculously. Information is not just going to miraculously appear in your brain, go to your memory, and then when you're ready to access it, it's just there. No, you have to be involved. So you have to be a player on the field and not a spectator. So you have to participate in class. So like, for example, today, how we're asking you to participate in the different activities that we have going on in the webinar, you have to actively participate in class. So when the teacher asks a question, you can respond. Even if you might not get it right, that is the place for learning. So that is the time for you to be corrected. Or the teacher might say, can somebody come up on the board and solve this problem or solve this equation? You can take that opportunity as a time to get some practice and see, do I have the steps? Do I already understand the process that the teacher is teaching? So you want to make sure that you participate in class. And we know sometimes a lot of people like to sit in the back of the class. And at the back of the class can sometimes really lead to lots more distraction than paying attention and participation. So you want to ensure that you sit someplace where that you can pay much attention and be involved. So you want to take an active part in your learning. You might also want to seek to work with individuals who are like-minded and who have similar goals. And that brings us to the second tip for active learning. You want to learn collaboratively. Now, sometimes people like to say, and I do say sometimes, I'm not a fan of working in groups, especially when it comes to studying and so on. But working in groups is a good way to get practice for later on in life. As you would imagine, say for instance, when you move on to the world of work, you are usually part of a team. You're not a part on your own. Your team could be small, like 5. Your team could even be 25 or even larger. And if you've never had practice working in groups where you can share information, know how to assist each other, pick up someone else's slack if it comes to that, then you can have difficulty there. But then working in groups can also assist you with pulling each other along. Sometimes you are able to explain something to someone that they don't understand, or they might explain it to you, and y'all can bring each other along. So when you have or someone who works with you, when you have similar goals, then you all can bring each other along and you can find that the learning experience can be even better. You also want to think about what you're learning. So teachers will usually give you a syllabus for your class prior to the start or at the beginning of the class so that you can follow along each week with what topic you're going to be doing. Or the teacher might tell you beforehand, next week we're going to be looking at such and such a topic. What you can do is you can read ahead of that class. So if you have a textbook, you can read a chapter prior to start in that class, or if your teacher sends out notes prior to the class, you can read those notes so that when you come to class, you would already have an idea of what is going on. You might not understand fully, but it gives you an idea of where you're going and how things are starting. That way too, you can ask any questions, get any clarity, and you can be on top of your work and so on. You mentioned does not participate in class, and that's very important. You also want to transform information. So sometimes we do know that depending on the tutor or depending on the class or the type of class that it is not always the tutor is not always able to present information always in the way that you as an individual student might prefer for your learning. So you can transform that information for yourself. So for example, if the teacher sends notes and all of it is written and you are not someone that likes to read, what you can do, you can use your smartphone, record yourself reading the notes so that at another time when you have some downtime, maybe you're traveling home on the bus or something like that, or you have a 10-minute break between class, you can put in your earphones and listen to the notes so that you can get as much as you can out of it. All right, so we're moving on. Examine your study environment. Now, in general, you should have somewhere at home where you can set up for your studying and so on. But even more importantly now, because of the way how things have gone since last year with the pandemic, we know it's important to have somewhere in your home, maybe your bedroom or a study, depending on how your home is set up, to have somewhere to do your studies or to take your online classes and so on. So are you prepared for this? Have you had your area set up? So there's some things in the checklist that I'm going to go through with you, and I'm going to hope that if you don't have them sorted out, if you haven't thought about it, that you will think about it and get yourself started so that when school starts next week, you'll be all ready. Number one, is it free from noise and distractions? Now, the good example of this, I'm not sure how much you're hearing, but I live on the main road and it can be very noisy at times. So just now, you're hearing some cars and some buses and some heavy vehicles. Sometimes people are playing loud music and so on. Sometimes people are blowing the horns. It can get very noisy and distracting sometimes. So sometimes if they want to focus on things, they either have to put in earphones or sometimes they might use noise canceling headphones. So sometimes depending on where you are, sometimes it might not necessarily be inside your home that is noisy, but it might be the area or the district that you live in that might have lots of activity. You might live next door to a shop or something like that. So you want to make sure that you prepare yourself for that. Is it a great temperature? Now we know that sometimes outside can get very hot. And even if you get very cold, you can be very distracted because you are uncomfortable. You're not able to focus on what it is you're doing. So you want to make sure that you prep your area. So do you need a fan? You might need to bring in a fan on mornings in the area where you're studying because that little nook might be hot and you don't want to get hot and miserable and distracted. I mean, if you can afford an AC unit, well, that's even better. But we know the reality is that probably 98% of us can't. So you can utilize a fan for that. Does it have good lighting? Good lighting is important. Generally, for reading, you need to be able to see well. But when we add all of these devices to that equation, looking at screens for long periods of time can make your eyes tired. And then they talk about the blue light that is emitted from these devices can also impact on your eyes. And even later on, as you get older, it can make a difference in your ability to see well. So you want to make sure that there's good lighting. If the area is dark, you might want to invest in a lamp that you can use to make things a little better for your eyes. And sometimes people even invest, even though you might not necessarily need glasses for reading, sometimes people invest in glasses that have blue light coating, the coating to prevent blue light, just so that you can help to protect your eyes as you are studying. You want to make sure that what you sit on is comfortable, because after a while, if you're sitting something that's uncomfortable, one, you get numb, that's also uncomfortable, and you are not able to spend as much time doing what you might want to. So you want to make sure that you set out a comfortable chair or maybe put a cushion in the chair so that you'll be able to be comfortable as you study. You want to make sure that it's space to set up your your books and notes. So you want to make sure that you're not studying on your bed, so that you have the space. Your bed can sometimes be very tempting to study on, but that's not something that we suggest, because one is not, it starts so comfortable, but it isn't good for you in terms of your back, and you're not having the ability to do what you need to do. So maybe you might need to invest in a table. You can get a folding table if it's necessary, if you don't have a space, or if your home permits and is not noisy, you can utilize the dining room table where you can sit and focus and set out your tools. You want to make sure you have all the items that you need close by. You don't want that you have to be getting up periodically. Oh, sure, I forget the calculator. Oh, wait, I thought I had a pen. You want to make sure that when you're preparing yourself, you have all of your items to hand so that you don't have to be moving around and getting distracted. And you want to have motivational aids around you. Sometimes people like to put out words of affirmation, things that when they look at it can, motivate them. You can, something like, maybe you can do this. Don't give up. So that on the day when you're not feeling your best, or you're like, can I really do this? Like, I tired of college. You can see those notes, or even a photo of someone who maybe your hero or someone that you look up to that can remind you, you know what, I know why I'm doing this. So timetables, when we hear about timetables, we usually think about the schedule that we get from our divisions, indicating what time your classes are, what the time slot is. But today we want to really talk about more is a study timetable or a study schedule or a study plan. Any of those three terms you can call it. And a study plan is an organized schedule that a student makes which outlines his or her study time, helping to achieve his or her goals. Now, it can take a little time to put together the study schedule, but once you know what you need to do, you can get the hang of it. And you can see in the photo, this gives you some hours here that you can utilize. This is just an example. And just remember too that everybody's study schedule can be different. So no one study schedule works for everybody, because people have different lives, different things happening. So your friend's study schedule will not be your study schedule, depending on what's happening with them. So some tips on creating a study timetable or a study schedule. The first thing we want you to do is identify your study goals. So what is it you want to achieve this semester, for example? So for those of you who said you didn't do as well last semester, let's go with you to use as an example right now. So maybe you didn't do so well because you weren't spending enough time studying during last semester. You maybe say, well, oh, I'm just going to do 5 hours a week. You know you did not do well. So now going forward, what you can say is, I know that I need to put in more time. So I need to increase my study hours this semester. That is a goal. Or you can say, well, I got a lot of C's, but this semester I want to work towards getting B's and improve on that. So which also means equates to putting in more study time. So know what your goals are so that when you're doing your study schedule, you will know what to do. Know your existing commitments. Now, everybody's life is different. We have some mature students who work and study, even some students who are not mature, who are teenagers, but they also work and study, so they work part-time. Some people work full-time and they study part-time. Some people have extracurricular activities that they're involved in. Some people are, say, maybe somebody who's very involved in their fitness. So every morning at 5 o'clock, they get up and they do an hour of exercising and so on. So depending on what it is you're doing, or because school is online now, some of you might be enlisted by your parents to assist your younger siblings who might be studying from home and doing school from home as well. So you have to help them with their homework or something like that. Or even when they go back out, you might have to collect them from school on evenings. So when you know your existing commitments, you can put in that. So before we even get to the next one, which says color code your timetable, what we ask you to do, put in your school timetable. So the classes and the time slots, you start with that. Now that you've identified your study goals and your existing commitments, we ask you, put in your existing commitments. So if you go to the gym at 5 every morning or you work out, you slot in gym time or exercise time. If you pick up your siblings on evenings or your kids on evenings after school between 3 to 4, you slot in that. You maybe volunteer at an organization twice a week for an hour or 2 hours, you slot in that. When you have done that, then you will see what time you have available. Now, just want to warn you, sometimes some people are involved in too many activities. Some people may be involved in 3 or 4 different extracurricular activities. When you've slotted in all of those things and you realize that you don't have enough time for studying, what might be advisable is to reduce the amount of activities that you're involved in. You remember right now it's important for you to get your studies done so you can always pick back up some of those things at a later time. Or instead of coming out of all of them, you can reduce the amount of hours that you put in so that you're able to get in your study time, enough study time. Color code your study timetable. So if you're registered for 4 classes, if you're part-time, or 6 or 7 classes if you're full-time, you can assign a color to each of those classes. That way, when you put the study time down on your timetable, you would know, okay, when I see pink, I know this is math 100. When I see yellow, this is physics 204 or something like that, for example. Schedule breaks. Now, don't say, some students will say, Mom, I have 4 hours down for studying tonight. I'm going to say 4 straight hours. Yes. The reality is our brains can only focus for certain periods of time, and it varies by individual. All right. So you want to make sure that you schedule in breaks in between those hours. So we suggest that you do maybe, depending on the individual and your attention span, we have 30-minute, a 30-minute slot, or a 40-minute slot, or a 45-minute slot, and then a 10 to 15-minute break before you transition to the next subject. That way you can refocus, you can maybe get something to eat, to nibble on, you can get up and stretch, get your blood flowing again, but you were able to refocus and you can get lots more off of that 4-hour time slot rather than you say you study for 4, but really only remember 1 hour's worth of information because you lost your train of thought. All right. Review your information frequently, and this is something you're going to hear me come back to quite a bit during the session. You want to make sure that you review. And I love to say, my students will always hear me say, you want to work smarter and not harder. If you review your work consistently throughout the semester, then you will not have to put in as much work at the end of the semester trying to cover all of the week's worth of work in a short period of time. So maybe after each class or nightly, you can review your notes. That way you can figure out, did I understand this? Do I need more practice? Do I need to ask the teacher to explain this again? And so on. And you should study at least 24 hours or more a week. 24 hours, Miss Calendar, that sounds like a lot. It is, but remember, right now you are a student and this is what your focus is on. And it is 24 hours across 7 days. So that really only equates to maybe 3 to 4 hours per day. And yes, Saturdays and Sundays are included. Sometimes our students say, well, Monday to Friday is school, so that is the time that I'm studying. But remember, at this point in life, you are transitioning to higher learning, and this is like your foundation for moving on to either a higher degree or a career or work. So you want to make sure that your foundation is set right and stable. So study time activities. So sometimes you will ask students, what do you do in your study time and so on. They will say, oh, I do the homework that the tutor gives. Is that the only thing that you do? Yes, ma'am. But what I want to say to you is that homework time and study time are 2 different activities. Yes, they are. Homework time is the time where you spend time working on assignments or a worksheet that the tutor might have given you. Maybe a question, the tutor gives you an essay or a poem to go home and review and write a summary, something like that. Or maybe an accounts, they give you questions to work on. That is homework. But when you're studying, you're actually putting in a lot more effort than that. So some activities in studying, reading notes and textbook. So the teacher might send you notes, handouts. You may also have your textbook. During your study time, you go through those notes. You may read a chapter or chapters connected with that particular topic. And not only do you read, you should be making notes from those notes. You can be highlighting important information like formulae or examples or even definitions that you need to know. Then you can also include practicing problems. So like courses like math and chemistry and um, physics, accounting, economics, those kind of courses that you have questions that you're practicing. Maybe things like in electronics, you might have problems that you have to work out. You take time to go through those problems and practice. You have to practice, practice, practice. One, so that you can get the steps and know what you're doing. One, if also number two, if you have to remember formally, that will help you to be able to remember formally and what question you need to apply the formally to, and so on. Quizzes, you can create your own quizzes, so you can ask yourself questions about the material that you're doing, or sometimes the tutor might send you a quiz that you did before, and you can do the quiz over again to see, do I really remember that information? Sometimes textbooks have quizzes at the back of each chapter to see, for you to go through to see if you grasp the information. You can try teaching yourself or teaching others. So if you're working in a group collaboratively, you all can try teaching each other topics. That way you would know, yes, I really grasp the information and I know what I'm talking about. Or you know what, I need to go over this again because some of the concepts I'm still a little shaky on. You can create memory aids, and memory aid, for example, sometimes what we call it cue cards. That's an example of a memory aid where you can write out important information. So for example, you can write out things like the definitions, examples, formulae that you need to learn, those kind of things, so that you can have those cards on hand when you have a little break time, 10-minute break between classes, or if you're traveling on the bus. We do know that some of you don't like paper, and then people are talking about the environment. That is okay. What you can create those memory aids or those notes cards on your smartphone. They are note cards that you can, note apps that you can get on your phone. If you don't have one, you can download them from the store, or there's some that comes with it that you can then create your cards within those notes so that you always have it. Once you have your phone, you have your notes and you can go through them. Memory. So the second part of our session. So in order to learn information, the information has to be transferred to your memory, and not just your memory, your long-term memory. Your long-term memory helps you to recall what you have learned, maybe days, months, or years ago. And to give you an example of this, sometimes when students come, you ask them, tell me what your CXC grades are that you got back. And sometimes 3 months later, they say, ma'am, I can't remember my CXC. I can't remember my grades. And I say to them, I won't tell you how long ago I did my CXCs, but I can rattle off my grades just like that. That information was transferred to my long-term memory. That's why I can remember it like that. So what you have to do is to make sure that what you learn is stored properly so that you're able to retrieve it. That's just like a filing cabinet. If the filing cabinet has certain places for certain files to go, if you put the file the wrong place, when you go to retrieve the file, you look where it's supposed to be, then it is not there. It's going to be hard to find it. All right, so guys, I have another activity for you. I'm going to show the slide, give you 20 seconds to look at the slide. Now, I don't want you to cheat. Do not take a photo or anything like that. Give you 20 seconds to look at the slide, and then I'm going to ask you some questions, all right? So 20 seconds starting now. So look, see what's going on, look in the background, take note of different things. Don't write down anything, don't take a photo, you don't want to cheat. Think of this as an exam. All right, I think that was 20 seconds or maybe a little over. So I want you guys in the chat to respond to the questions, all right? We're gonna start. First question, where is the girl? Where is the girl? So in the chat, I want you to respond. Think about what you saw in the photo and respond in the chat. Where is the girl? Where is the girl? Not seeing the responses yet. Remember, Remember we talked about participating in class. Ms. Cullimore, are you seeing any responses yet in the chat? I see one response so far. Where is the girl? And remember, this is a
There's
fun
several
activity.
responses.
Yes, I'm seeing them now. Remember, this is a fun activity, so you don't have to be right. If you say the wrong answer, we will all laugh together at each other, all right? Okay, it seems as though everybody has the same response so far. Yes, and you are correct. Those of you who responded, thank you. The girl is on the horse. On the horse. Your memories are working really well so far. Yes. Next question. What is the main color of the barn? What is the main color of the barn? Can you remember? I'm seeing some responses. Everybody has the same response so far. Sarah is saying, I think. That's all right. Any more responses? No more responses, but those of you who responded, yes, you are correct. The main color of the barn is red. Next question. Do the trees have leaves? Do the trees have leaves? Do the trees have leaves? Miss Natalie, you're straight off the ball. Jaden says, can't remember. That is okay. We're having lots of no's. No, no, no. No, you are correct. The tree does not have leaves. All right. Second last question. What does the man have in his hand who is sitting on the ground? What does the man have in his hand who is sitting on the ground? Anybody can remember? She's on Christopher. You're out the gate already. I see a pipe. I see a cigarette. I see a cigar. I see a spliff. That is interesting. I think this, Ms. Collins, the first time we received that answer. Pipe, pipe. And the answer is pipe. The man has a pipe in his hand. All right. And the last question, guys. Was the dog's feet on or off the ground? Was the dog's feet on or off the ground? We have off, we have on. Some was on the ground, off, on, off, on. There's a variety of answers this time around. All right. So the answer is both. Some of the dog's feet, two of the dog's feet are on the ground and two are off. So that was a trick question. All right. So I think Zipporah was the only one that actually had the correct answer for that. Thank you guys for participating in that activity. All right, so as we move swiftly along, coming close to the end, what is in your long-term memory? So if I had to ask you to type your phone number in the chat, I am sure you guys will be able to tell me what your phone number is because that information would have been in your long-term memory, unless your phone number changed yesterday or within the last week. What about if I asked you to multiply 7 times 6? Can anybody tell me, put in the chat, what is 7 times 6? No, this is something that should be in your long-term memory because you learn your tables when you were in primary school. So unless you didn't learn your timetables, then you won't be able to answer that question. And I'm seeing some answers so far in the chat. Yes, the answer is 42, correct. So these guys, great. It shows that your timetables have been learned and is in your long-term memory because you're able to grasp it right away. What about if I ask you, what is the motto of Barbados? Will you be able to tell me that? Can anybody type that in the chat? What is the motto of Barbados? Are we all Barbadians in the session today? Jada, are you asking me or are you telling me? I see a question mark. You're not sure. I'm seeing some answers coming. Some answers coming. Yes, you guys are correct. Pride and industry is the motto of Barbados. Now you know these answers, like I said, because this information has been encoded and stored well in your long-term memory. Tanisha, that is okay. That is quite okay. We're hoping that since you're staying here for a little while, you will be able to learn our motto and some of our Barbadian things. But we're happy to have you here with us in Barbados. All right. So this information would have been encoded in your long-term memory. So some things to strengthen your memory. Review, review, review. And you would have heard me mention that a little earlier. We always advocate reviewing consistently throughout the semester. Now think about it. If you're a full-time student doing 6 or 7 courses and you're doing these courses over like 12 weeks of school, imagine trying to learn 12 weeks worth of schoolwork for 6 or 7 courses in 1 week before exams. The reality is things are going to suffer and you're not going to be able to get as much as you can and you're not going to get the grades that you can. So we suggest that you review, review, review. If you review consistently during reading week, all you should be doing is looking over to reinforce, maybe correcting 1 or 2 things, but you should not be now learning information during reading week. Then we want to also encourage you to use multiple modes to internalize information. Visual, which is seeing, auditory, which is hearing, kinesthetic, which is movement to learn. And if we use our webinar today as an example, visual, so you're seeing the information that we are sharing on our screen so that you can follow what we're talking about. Then auditory, you're hearing the presentation as we go through. So you're seeing it and you're hearing it. And then kinesthetic, that part came in when we asked you to participate in the class. So we asked you to click on the poll. We asked you to type in the chat. That is the movement part of it. So you want to make sure that you are engaging these things to help you to be able to remember everything. All right. And even the different colors can also assist you in that regard. We want to encourage you to try these techniques. Mnemonics. Mnemonics help you to remember things. So remember at school, or if you used to go to church, sometimes you will have something like an acrostic where you spell out a word and you say what each letter starts for. You can do that. Those of you who may have did chemistry or integrated science with the periodic table, you created a song to remember the elements of the periodic table. Or those of you that may have done music, you would have learned a song to help you remember the letters of the scale. Those are things that you can utilize to help you to remember information. I mentioned earlier highlighted text. So what you can do is you can assign colors different meanings for highlighters. So for instance, you can use pink to highlight definitions. You can utilize yellow to highlight examples. You can utilize green to highlight formulae, so that when you go to study, you know right away, once you see pink, this is a definition. Once you see yellow, these are examples. Once you see green, these are formulae. That way you can know right off the bat how to do your stuff, how to learn your information, and you can recognize things easier. You can create mind maps. You can connect new concepts to old concepts. We talked earlier about note cards or cue cards. And sleep. Yes, sleep. Sleep is very important. If you do not rest your body and rest your brain, then you're not going to be able to maximize your studies and your learning. If you only get a little bit of rest, then your body is tired, you cannot focus, And then the time you spend studying, if you spend an hour, you might only remember 10 or 15 or maybe 20 minutes of what you would have done. And then the other time would have been wasted. So you want to make sure that you get adequate rest. I'm not telling you to sleep 10 hours a day. If you sleep 10 hours a day, you will not be able to get in enough study time either. So you want to make sure that you have that balance. All right. So this is what happens when you don't review. This is called the forgetting curve. So earlier I showed you the slide and right away we asked you questions and you were on the ball, 100%. Majority of you had all the answers. 20 minutes later, half of that is gone if you do not review the information. Now, if I ask you this information tomorrow, is even more is gone, down to 33%. And if I ask you this next month, even more is lost. So if you do consistent review, again, me repeating myself, then you are able to remember the information. And just to see if you remember, can anybody tell me, put in the chat, how many hours should you be studying a week? Let's see if you remember that. How many hours should you be studying in a week? Can anybody remember when we talked about that earlier? Zario is on the ball straight away. We're getting some answers. 24, 24. Yes, correct. You are correct. That means you did remember. Good, good. One more question. Let's see if you remember. On the picture, can you remember what the color of the roof was in the picture? Can you remember what the color of the roof was in the picture? So type it in the chat. What color was the roof in the photo? Jaden says black. Gray, Sephora is asking. Like a dark blue gray. Devontae, what kind of color is that? A dark blue gray. Okay. Most were gray, but there was a black one. All right, that was actually a trick question, but Rachel Jones, you got it. The main barn roof was gray, the one we talked about being red, but then there was a black roof. Yes, over on the left, there was a black roof. So Rachel, give yourself a hand. You actually got the full question correct. Zario, you came out and you said gray or black. So yes, you guys remember well. So I want you to remember, guys, success requires you to dedicate time, work wisely, and I would dare say as well, work smartly, and keep striving for excellence. Yeah, so you want to make sure that you put in the time. You can only get out of your studies what you put into it. If you only study an hour a week, then you will only get an hour. All right. So you want to work wisely and you want to keep striving for excellence. Just to let you guys know, if you want to get in contact with us, our email is counseling@bcc.edu.bb. You can send us an email there. You can also follow us on social media. We are on Instagram and Facebook, so you can keep up to date with if we are hosting. We're going to be hosting quite a few webinars coming up this semester, different activities and so on. Any important notices you can find on our Instagram and Facebook pages, so we encourage you to do that. If you are interested in reaching out to see a counselor, whether it be for personal reasons, academic reasons, higher education, or career counseling, you can find us and find that information on the BCC website. We have intake forms there. Once you fill the form, a counselor will reach out to you so that you can be seen, either virtually, as we're doing right now, or in person if we go back out to the office. If you go on the BCC webpage, on the home page, you scroll down to the bottom, you will see some pages down at the bottom. You can click on the arrow till you see counseling intake forms. You click on that and you will see the forms there. You also see an intake form for the Lime Academic Enhancement Center. The Lime Center is a center where we offer free tutorials in a variety of courses, so we can encourage you to do that. We've been doing those free tutorials both virtually and in person Of course, as you would imagine, this starting off the semester will possibly be virtual, but we have not finalized that schedule as yet. But once you've sent any information, somebody will reach out to you and we will connect with you. So thanks for coming today to our webinar, and we hope that the information would be beneficial to you and that you would have a great semester. Okay, guys, we'll just open the floor. Do you have any